So I got some really bad news for Black Panther fans and really good news for people that despise him. Let's talk about it. YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark here bright and early on a beautiful Monday morning. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the other day on Twitter, Necros had made a post, and I'm going to put it right here on the screen for you all, basically saying that he had talked to the devs after they had had some type of I don't know where he's at right now. I'm assuming that he is at the Ignite tournament or something like that, and they must have had some type of little, whatever type of little fun tournament between him and the devs. Another picture that I'm going to post here where they had some of the top content creators for Marvel Rivals, and then they had some devs here. Now, what's interesting about this picture is that if you look at it, they have instead of the actual devs pictures, they have pictures for them that are characters. Now, they could have been just putting these up randomly, but some people believe that these are characters that they play. Now, I wasn't able to find the footage where he did this little friendly tournament with the devs or whatever, but I did see a clip of him using Black Panther against the devs and was just absolutely demolishing them. Now, the thing is that we all have varying skill levels, right? Everybody's completely different. Some people are slightly better or below other people. Some people are very far apart. You have some people that are, they've been in bronze this whole time and it's hard for them to get out of it. And then you have some people who never hit lower than eternity or something, right? That's just, and everything in between. So you could have a dev that plays Black Panther, but maybe they play at a very basic entry level type of thing. I know everybody thinks every dev is amazing at the game, but I've run across devs for other games in the past that were not very good at all. They may be good at designing the game, but when it comes to actually playing it at a professional level or anything like that, that's a completely different topic. And like I said, because I haven't been able to see the full gameplay, I don't know where it's posted. If someone knows where it's posted or understands the whole entire thing, feel free to leave that in the comments. The only thing that I found interesting about it is that, after that, he did this tournament, he had said on his Twitter that he had talked to the devs and they basically said that Black Panther was extremely annoying to play against. And he was saying that Black Panther might be cooked because the fastest way to get anyone to want to nerf a character or rework them or whatever is when they themselves have to deal with it. And, the thing that I find interesting about Black Panther is that even in our Discord server, right, this was one of the most controversial topics. We had a stage one day where we talked about Black Panther because we have someone in our server who is one of the best Black Panther. I know he likes to play it down and act like he's not, but Noken is the way that people talk about him in our server is the way that people talk about John Wick, aka the Baba Yaga. In the movies, the way that he's just this ghost that just gets in and out because he really is, and people find him that intimidating to where they usually get offended at whoever it was that even brought John Wick to their doorstep because they just know that it's curtains for them. That's how people talk about Noken. And the thing is that the majority of Black Panther players are not that good. I usually don't really struggle that much against Black Panthers. I usually just have to change how I'm playing a little bit. I'm not going to be able to just sit there and play Cloak and Dagger and just, chill and, ult up to the back line and take out the supports and then go back to chilling doing my thing. I usually have to play someone else. I got to play Loki or Rocket Raccoon or something like that. Something that just makes it a little bit harder for them. Usually the highest success rate that I have with a character against Black Panther is usually Invis. And that's just simply because obviously it's very hard to delete the individual that you can't see. But like I said, we have Noken in the server who is the resident Black Panther. Whenever we do our custom matches, which is usually every day, at some point he pulls it out. But lately he's been getting to a point to where he's just been kind of messing around with other characters and stuff like that, having more fun. The point I'm making is that we have someone else in the server who had made a Reddit post, and I had done a video about this before, Fuzzy Muffin in our Discord server. He had made a post talking about basically why Black Panther needs to be reworked or nerfed. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we just know that he does not like Black Panther. He feels like Black Panther players are actually like they want to physically hurt people, right? And that's just his thoughts on it. But he feels like there's a lot of people that agree with him, and it was very controversial stage because 50% of people were like, no, we just need to learn. He's not broken. We just need to learn how to pay attention before he actually goes to attack, and that's kind of the only thing that he has working for him. Outside of that, he's kind of pointless. And then we had the other group of people that were like, no, of all the characters in the game, he is the only one that causes you to have to basically change the way your whole entire team plays, your team comp and everything. And it got to a point to where this stage this is probably one of the longest stages. I had been in there already for like 3 or 4 hours. I left to go get food, watch a movie, came back, the stage was still going. And then it was like a week later, every time that anyone even said something about Black Panther, it turned back into the same argument. And it got so bad that we had to make a separate channel in the Discord server just for pretty much Black Panther. Like if you want to debate about Black Panther, you have to go to this channel, because people in the general chat were just tired of seeing the back and forth debate and the fact that like there was no real definitive kind of like answer to it. And people just kind of were, they felt how they felt, and they were digging their toes in the sand and sticking to their guns on that one, right? And, you know, the thing is that, like I said, before playing against Noken's Black Panther, I just felt like, okay, well, there's these things I can do. I can go and viz. I'll use my other support as bait, and then I'll take him out whenever he comes. I'm usually pretty good. I'm usually pretty good at remembering when Black Panther, like around the time when his cooldowns are going to reset, and knowing like the angles that he's going to like approach from and stuff like that. So, you know, that was just something that I was able to do. Now, when it comes to Noken's Black Panther, though, this man is just so good at the character that it really does make you start to kind of go, hey, you know, maybe we need to do something about this character. Only problem is, though, is that from talking to Noken, which I did, and I asked him a bunch of questions about Black Panther. You know, I picked his brain about it. I'm like, hey, you know, what's the hardest thing for you? What are the easiest things for you? What do you like when people don't do, or et cetera? You know, basically what makes your life difficult. And, you know, I'll get to that in a moment. But through talking to him, when I was asking him like, hey, what exactly could we do realistically that you feel like is fair? Because he's a pretty reasonable guy. And, you know, I was asking him like, hey, as far as like a nerf or a rework, what could actually be done to make people's lives easier when it comes to Black Panther, without necessarily having to maybe rework like with a Jeff where you completely change his whole setup? I do think that it is kind of unfair when you've given someone a character. They have put hundreds and hundreds upon hundreds of hours into this character, learned them, mastered them, every single spot on the map that they could to attack from, just all this stuff, right? And then you go, hey, this is really hard for a lot of people, so we're going to take it away. But I also understand what it's like as a support player when you have a Black Panther spending his whole entire game, which sometimes in ranked matches he can go up to 20, 25, maybe even 30 minutes, depending on how many overtimes you get, just targeting you. It's mentally kind of exhausting, especially when when the player is as good as someone like Noken or even better. That's just ridiculous, right? And through talking to him, he said that the only thing that they could really do in regards to a nerf would be a 1 second cooldown on his dash. Now, the thing about that is that me personally, I feel like with a 1 second cooldown on the dash, you're just making life slightly more irritating for the Black Panther, but it's not like the really good ones are not going to be super affected by it. It's kind of like with Spider-Man. They kept nerfing him, and they kept nerfing like how much like range and damage his uppercut did. That doesn't change that good Spider-Mans are still going to figure out a way to make it work. And the thing that made Spider-Man so annoying is still there. Does it take a little bit more now to delete people? Yes, but at the same time, when someone only plays that character and loves that character to death, these microscopic nerfs, they're still going to figure out how to do it. If somebody wants to be annoying on Spider-Man, they can't be. And if they're good enough, right, then obviously there's going to be a lot of people that are affected by the fact that his uppercut no longer it has the radius of a small football field. But at the same time, though, it doesn't really stop what anyone has going on. So in regards to reworks, he said that maybe make him more like a brawler, basically where you upped his his like claw, kind of like his main attack that he does or whatever, right? Not the spear dash, but him just like using the claws and stuff. And maybe kind of like how you have Adam Warlock, where when he gets crit shots now, it like gives him his healing ability faster. Maybe kind of like something like that with Black Panther, where maybe you dive in or you dash to a character, you brawl them up a little bit. Maybe that gives you your ability to be able to kind of like use the spear and dash to them, the more shots that you hit on that or something. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that I hear from people in regards to Black Panther is that with all the other dive, you see it coming. Right? Like think about Magic. You think about Spider-Man's kind of the same way, but at least with Spider-Man, I feel like people really do like hear his webs if you're actually listening. You can kind of like have an idea of where Spidey's at. I mean, Spider-Man can be sneaky if you play him that way, but for the most part, I don't think people have that same feeling towards Spider-Man. But like I said, Magic, Iron Fist, any of the other dive and stuff like that, you actually see them coming for you most of the time. Whereas with Black Panther, his whole thing is like, I'm going to sit up here in this really weird spot or climb this wall or hide in this bush or whatever. And then when you come around the corner, it's just dash gone, and for a lot of people, by the time it registers on their screen, it's just like they were there and then your body just goes flying. And I see how that's infuriating for a lot of people, because with every other character, you kind of have some type of time to react. Whereas with Black Panther, you have to be proactive. You can't be reactive. Like you have to be able to like pay attention and look around. And that's just something that a lot of people are not good at. Like I said, with me, I'm always thinking like my enemy. So if I know you're playing Black Panther, I know what your cooldowns are. I know that you have to be able to hit these spears and these dashes to be able to refresh the cooldowns and stuff. That's why I go invisible, because the moment that I think that you're about to be coming up behind me, I turn around, I see you there, I dash out of the way. You now can't hit your spear or your dash. So now you're just having to run out of there, because what else are you going to do? Either that or you have to go for the other support. When you go for the other support, that's when I strike and I start attacking, and we go back and forth on you, right? But the amount of planning that takes is just not a fun experience for people. Black Panther has to have, I haven't looked at the ban rate, but the thing is that it has been so long since I played a ranked match. Even on console, people were doing this when I was doing my console run, second console run not too long ago, but especially on PC, every single game, it is the same exact identical bans. Black Panther, Wolverine. And 9 times out of 10, I find it funny because Black Panther is the first one that people are trying to ban. Every single game. Now, I don't know about like super high ranks, but maybe super low ranks, there are no bans. But you get what I'm saying, though, right? Like where I'm at in the middle right now, every single person is banning Black Panther. It's just like, we would just rather not have to deal with it. And, now I just want to kind of, because I feel like with talking about Black Panther, we should be fair, right? So when I was talking to Noken, I was asking him like what's like the hardest and easiest, roles for him to deal with and go against and stuff like that, right? So first I'm going to start off with the easiest. The easiest characters that he said are to go against support-wise are Luna, Jeff, Mantis, Loki, and Cloak and Dagger. Okay, and in regards to DPS, the easiest are Punisher, Hela, Moon Knight, and Hawkeye, right? These are characters that don't really have like a lot of escape routes and stuff like that. They might have one kind of little thing that lets them back up for a little bit, but it's not enough to where it's going to deter a Black Panther. Either that, or they're just easily able to like bait out that ability and then keep it pushing. So those are definitely characters that if you're trying to, like, if you have to go against Black Panther, that you probably just want to stay away from, because like I said, this comes from the mouth of one of the best Black Panther players that I personally know, who is absolutely amazing at the character, Noken. So, but now we get over to the hardest ones. Now, pretty much any tank is hard for a Black Panther, because just like a Spider-Man or anything like that, they're not set up to go against tanks. They're set up to go against squishies and get them out of here really quick. And then you can kind of put a little damage on a tank once everybody else has been deleted. But for the most part, that's not their strong suit. But nonetheless, the hardest tanks, to just go against, not even like it's just a 1v1 type of deal, but just it makes their life difficult in general, is the Thing, which I think a lot of people already know because he has his grounding ability. So that's pretty much for any character who relies on some type of escape movement, kind of like with Spider-Man when I play him. The Thing does that perfectly. I'll go to swinging on someone and he slams down. I lose my ability to swing away and I'm just stuck there. Then you have Emma. And he also said Penny with the Rocket team up. Now, I'm assuming that's because obviously you're getting 2 of those nests, which, it might be easy to kind of avoid 1, but maybe having to avoid 2, that's where it gets difficult. So, so now going to supports. The hardest supports, he basically said if you have Ultron on triple heal, because I guess with Ultron putting down his drone on people, you're not able to do enough damage, right? And then like I've already talked about, Invis, and this is not triple heal, but just Invis in general, because like I said, it is extremely hard to delete what you cannot see. The only exception as an Invis player in Lord is Magic, and that's because Magic has this really broad sword that she just swings in a general kind of like area. So if she even remotely has an idea of where you were at and she swings, once you take even just a little bit of damage from that, it's going to bring you out of your invisibility. So it's really hard to get away from Magic unless like maybe you jump to like high ground or you timed it perfectly to where you jumped and she just couldn't tell where you went. But yeah, I've had him just literally sit there for a second and swing around in a circle and eventually like had enough range on that to hit me and bring me out of invisibility. So yeah, but also too, he said Rocket. Yeah, so I guess Rocket is kind of hard, and that's because he said, I believe, that his dash is as quick as like Black Panther's. So if someone's really good with their dash and the ability and stuff, but ultimately I do believe, I could be wrong. He can, if Noken, if you're listening, you can correct me in the comments. I do believe he said that like he could just kind of bait out those dashes. So it's kind of like a thing where you'll act like you're going to attack them, let them dash out, and then go for it. But it still is harder than like the average support to go against. Now, as far as DPS, he was saying that Black Widow is extremely hard to go against just because her kick has just a lot of like range and area that it covers. And once you get kicked with her and grapple, there's not really much you can do. And even like generic Black Widow players are going to just headshot you after that because you're going to be stunned for a few seconds. He said Namor kind of like with a question mark. He said he felt like it was more for Spidey, but I guess, in the right hands, Namor could work against him. Star-Lord, DPS, I'm sorry, Reed, and then you had Spidey as well, Psylocke, which was interesting to me, and then Bucky. And I believe he wrote here, or no, that was for Reed, where he said Reed just kind of has too much HP. It's just kind of ridiculous. He constantly goes into a state where he's either invincible or has like 500 and some change HP. So it isn't going to do enough in regards to BP's attacks and stuff. And then lastly, he had Iron Fist and Storm. Now, Storm is probably one of the ones that gets talked about the most in our server. Fade, one of the mods in the server, he is constantly bringing up Storm and saying that Storm is like a counter. And that's because, she has like the little lightning effect that does damage, but it also kind of like, I believe, slows you down as well a little bit, like the enemy. I could be wrong about that. Nonetheless, though, those are just kind of like some tips and tricks for people, because I do believe if we're going to talk about something and say, well, this is really hard, a lot of people are like, if you're like me, you're kind of like, well, okay, when I do have to go against that eventually and inevitably, what exactly am I going to do? So that's what, like I said, that's what I like to kind of ask when I'm talking to Noken. Like, yeah, I like to know, woe is me and all that kind of stuff and talk about that. But at the same time, if he's still in the game, what exactly can you do to counter him? And like I said, he's not a perfect character. As you can see, as far as like the hard list goes, for people that like kind of counter BP, there's a lot. I mean, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 DPS. You got 3 supports and 3 tanks, and these things are all things that just kind of like hard counter him. Things that he really said, outside of like Namor. So I guess you could take one of those off. That he was like, there's nothing I can really do against this if this person has any idea what they're doing. All right, so the character is not like this completely broken character. It really is a situation where a lot of people just don't want to play the things that hard counter this character. And I think that's just something with this community, is that the average player is an average player, and they load in and they only want to play the things they want to play. And I've seen that a lot, as I bring it up a lot of times. You talk about like Spider-Man, for example. People are always complaining about Spider-Man, saying, well, Spider-Man's doing this, and he's just targeting me, he's picking on me, and yada yada yada. The thing is that now, especially with Spider-Man, he has been nerfed so many times, there really is no excuse as to why you shouldn't be able to delete him as a support. Most supports have something that they can do that pretty much makes them like invincible for a period of time, or damn near, right? Like Cloak and Dagger, you put a bubble down, you blind him. He, like, even if you didn't do all that, like you just put the bubble down, there's nothing he can do that will delete you. I think they just had to buff his ult to where he could actually, delete you while you had your bubble down. Like, it's ridiculous. Even in his ultimate, he wasn't able to like delete you without having to do all this extra stuff, And the thing is too, is like Cloak and Dagger, you blind him, and now you can't even see where he's going, and you have pretty much auto aim. You just sit there and just point in his general vicinity, and he gets deleted, whereas he has to do all of this work to delete you. I've seen it from both sides. It's the same thing. Mantis can throw a sleep, and it has an AOE. He's sleeping now. He's gone to Meemaws. You buff yourself, then you do a couple of headshots, bing bang boom, it's over and done with. So let's not even talk about like Loki or anything like that. And deleting a Jeff or a Rocket is just almost so tedious that it's like, why am I doing this anyway? Unless they're already super weak and they're just oblivious. But a good one, yeah, you might as well sit here and, just like, what are you even doing, right? So that's just kind of my thoughts on it. But I am curious to know like what you guys think. Do you think that BP is cooked? Do you think that now that Necros dumpstered on some of the devs directly on live stream, they're gonna sit back now and kind of go, yo, Maybe we weren't harsh enough on BP. Maybe we just need to completely rework him. I mean, they did it for Jeff, and I really feel like Jeff was nowhere near as much of a problem as people make out BP to be. And it could just be my mindset. I could be biased because, like I said, I'm more of a adapt and overcome type of guy. I don't look at something unless it's like there's just literally nothing you can do. But if there's even anything at all that you can do, I'm like, okay, well, that's just what I have to do. The game is like the characters are just tools to me in a toolbox. If I got to drill a hole in a wall for something, I'm going to pull out my drill. I'm going to pull out the drill bit that is like specific to whatever size screw or nail it is that I got to use, right? And that's how it is with this game with me. Like, I don't care if Hawkeye is who I have to use, and I don't necessarily like Hawkeye. It's like I like winning more than I care about if I like a particular character or my comfortability or whatever. I don't mind stepping outside of my comfort zone and learning a new character. And then, you know, that's happened plenty of times where I didn't like Emma Frost at first. But after you've been choked out by her so many times, eventually you have to, you know, say, all right, maybe I should probably learn Emma. Then I learned Emma. Now I love Emma. You know, maybe not as much as Thor, but love her because she lets me win a lot. So like it's just natural, you know, for me to enjoy characters that I have a high win rate on. So, you know, it is what it is. But like I said, I am curious to know what you all think. Do you think people just complain too much? Do you think it's a skill issue? Like I said, I don't think that there's anything they can really do to Black Panther to change him. I think he's kind of this weird character to where you can't change anything because then it's essentially going to just make him either useless or even stronger than he was. And reworking characters, I don't really know how I feel about that. I mean, I get sometimes, I guess in certain situations, it just has to be done. But I feel like that is a worst case scenario type of deal, you know, emergency, break the glass if you need to type of thing. So I'm just curious to know what you all think though, but I would not be surprised here pretty soon if we get some patch notes for something and they're like, alrighty guys, we had to go back to the drawing board with BP, right? Like, so it just wouldn't blow my mind because like I said, it's one thing when people are just talking about it and you're like, yeah, okay, skill issue. And then when it happens to you, you go, oh, okay. All right. Maybe it's not a skill issue. Maybe it's just this is a terribly designed character. So, you know, let me know in the comments, though, as usual. But that's all I got for this video. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But I'm Father Dark, and I do appreciate y'all for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one.